gentlemen, please welcome your host, Mark Stevenson.
Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen, you're too kind. Lovely to see you, great to see a packed out audience here in the 1861 suite. Ladies and gentlemen, despite Saturday's disappointment at home to Salford, we remain firmly in the hunt for a top 7 finish with 52 points from 32 matches played. And tonight, our special guests are endeavouring to mastermind us going one step further than last season. And they're here, ladies and gentlemen, to answer your questions in a no-holds-barred fans forum. So, without any further delay, would you welcome, please, the CEO, David Sharpe, and the manager, Nigel Clough. Gentlemen, good evening. How are you both? You good? You what? Particularly good, yes, particularly for sitting next to you. Oh, too kind, started already. Well, let's speak about the recent form and Saturday then. You mentioned it in the press earlier and we've spoken about it recently, but excellent going into Saturday, wasn't it? Just recap what happened.
Well, once you booked this in for tonight, it was obvious we were going to get done on Saturday. Because we were in for the week before, I believe, weren't we?
We were, but if you...
yeah, and then you changed it and thought we've got a better chance of getting done at home by Salford, so it'd be a better atmosphere on the Tuesday night. So once you booked it in, it was guaranteed.
Trying to concede 5 at home.
One of those days.
One
of those days. We did it 2 weeks ago to Carlisle. Where we put everything in, finished our chances, and they played exceptionally well. Everything caught up with us, the injuries. It was funny because it was a strange game when you watch it back. We could have gone in 2-2, 3-2 up at half time easily, but the 2 goals just after half time just finished us off really. And then we were chasing the game. And in terms of 1 or 2 shouts, obviously from the crowd, bring them in tomorrow and everything. It was one of our highest volume games in terms of work rate and running, high speed running, sprinting, overall distance. One of our highest of the season. So don't let the result kid you about a lack of effort from the players.
Elsewhere, David, have you been pleased with the season so far?
Yeah, very. If you look, it's very different to last season because we came from 23rd at one point, were we, or 22nd in sort of October time, November time, right through to probably sitting near enough where we are now points wise. I don't think there's much in it this time last season, so yeah, but we've probably been a lot more consistent this season. We've always been around the top 8 or 9, rarely left those positions, and up until Saturday things were sort of, we were looking firmly at the top 3. Obviously the 3rd was in sight, it still is now. It's so tight, the pack is so tight, they're all playing tonight, or 4 or 5 of them are playing tonight, so again it will change tonight. Stockport were flying, and then they got beat up at Barrow on Saturday, we got beat, so it's so close to call. But I think the consistency this season has seen us in a good light, and 14 games to go. Hopefully we get a few of our players back in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then we'll kick on from there.
Yeah, we said that this morning, being the mix with 10 to go, hopefully in 4 games time there'll be 2 or 3, 4 players back, and we'll have a real go at it for the next 10 games, last 10 games.
It promises to be a gripping finale, doesn't it? We've had some good moments so far this season. Let's have a look, if we may, at some of the best bits so far this term. highlights reel, ladies and gentlemen. Some great moments in there. What will be at the top of the list for both of you?
I know a lot of goals. I tell you what strikes you as well, how important heading is in the game. How many headed goals there are, and when the ball comes into the box, just how important heading is even in the modern game. But the equaliser at Bradford, I thought in the circumstances was as good as anything.
David?
Yeah, I love that goal at Bradford. Yeah, it was a big goal. And they I think just on the moment that goal went in, they were applauding their ball boy for keeping the ball away from us. Yeah. So it was quite nice. I thought that and Will Swan's goal at Crewe I thought was a good goal. You've got Ollie Clark's, that was a lovely strike, but it's 1 in 1,000, that type of goal. But Swanee at Crewe like that. Late goals, you always love late goals.
Yeah, the Bradford one, because I think Mark Hughes said it was a change for a team that went back to front all the time. It was quite a good goal, which was very gracious of him.
Ladies and gentlemen, this forum sold out about a week ago, and because of such, there are some supporters, of course, all over the country and further afield who are not able to get here in person. So we did open questions up to any supporter to ask any question they wish. Most of which, we've got about a dozen, all of those submitted are going to be put to the guests tonight, most of which are for David, but the first one is for you, Nigel, which is probably better to David, but it's been sent to you by Kevin Summers of Mansfield, and he asks, when are you, Nigel, getting a new contract?
Well, no idea, but there's no rush. What we don't want is anything to distract for the next 3 months' work that we've got to do. So, no, there's no great hassle over that or rush over it. We'll just see what happens in the next 2-3 months. If we're as bad as we were Saturday, you might not want to be asking that question.
Just for clarity, you're happy here, you'd want to go into next season as manager?
Yeah, of course, but there's a lot of factors come into that, whether people want us to be here. So let's see how we go in the next 2 months.
Anything to add on that, David?
Yeah, the same as that. The appetite is for Nigel to stay, obviously, and I think he's done an outstanding job since he's been here. And having stability shows you what you can do. I think it's if it's not to be this season that we are promoted possibly the next season, but every season we're making progress. So I think so far we're making progress on last season, on and off the pitch. But yeah, Nigel's obviously a huge part of that, him and his staff. But it comes down to the owners, the board, and they're big fans of Nigel. But we've had a conversation. It's probably right for the summer. Let's get through. We don't want any distractions. Same with a couple of players. Get through to the next 2-3 months, and then we'll sit down and have a good conversation.
We're comfortable with the player contract situation as well, aren't we? We've done a few. Ollie Clark extended, George Maris extended. The new acquisitions in January all sorted, so we're very happy where we are with the contract situations.
Yeah, there'll probably be some questions about a couple of players, no doubt. So.
First question of the night for you, David, comes from Terry Adams from Hemel Hampstead, and he asks, as does the next question, Rob Siddons from Colchester, about the club shop and merchandise. So Terry asks, David, what's happening with the club shop? Is the club shop being extended, and are we getting any new merchandise? He goes on, clubs the same size of us have a lot better range of merchandise in their shops. It feels like we're falling behind a little bit with merchandise like hoodies, t-shirts, coats and scarves. It'll be nice, he says, to have more of a range and not just the training wear. Is there a time frame we can expect the club shop to be extended and new merchandise available?
Yeah, I can't say too much on this, but there is something in the pipeline that, and hopefully there'll be positive news on it in the next few weeks. So that again, I don't want to say anything to get everybody excited, and I don't want to say anything that might sort of, because we are under contracts with certain companies, and but the appetite and we are pushing to get things done. If you look at what we've, like the ticketing system, for instance, what we implemented, we were under a contract with the previous ticketing company, Key, so you can't just change things with a click of the fingers. There's a bit of a process to how things work. However, I do agree that the club shop is small. It's like a cupboard. It is small, but things cost money. You can't just. And it's space, and it's where it's meant to go, and we've got to go through SAG approval, and there's all different things about what you can do and what you can't do. But at the moment, it's obviously serviced through the ticket office as well, and then the guys do a great job. But it is only small, and hopefully Like I said, there's positive news, but I don't want to say anything that I shouldn't do.
Just to ask the question, it's slightly different from Rob Siddons from Colchester. Are there any plans or discussions currently to improve the size of the club shop? He says, I would also like to compliment the online ticketing system, which has been brilliant this season.
Again, about the club shop.
Yeah, so are there actually any plans to increase the size of it? I think that's slightly different.
It's going to be tricky to increase the size, so, I mean, you might have seen at a few clubs, that Salford have one, is they have these sort of tin hut type shops, but they're quite good and they're quite impressive, and you see them you can go to Man United, Liverpool, they have their main club shop, but then they have other ones dotted around the stadium. So we're having a look at one of these types of things, but it's and then potentially the ticket office could be expanded because you'd free up that space, or you might use that for stock. That's one thing as well. Having the space for stock isn't ideal here. So there's a few things that are going on, but I don't want to set any time frame on it and say that will be in place for them. But we're aware of it. We see it every day. We walk past it, and it is small and it does need to be addressed. And as far as the ticketing system, I hope everybody's enjoying it. It's obviously, when we're playing the big away games like Bradford and Doncaster, I'm not seeing the queues go down Quarry Lane past my space, past the gym like they were, or your space, whatever it's called, your space I think it might be called. So yeah, online, we're finding it online, so and it's stopped like a day like today where it's windy and raining. You can just sit at home and place an order rather than standing up for 4 hours and wait for your ticket.
There's a bundle of questions for you, David, from Sean Witham in Mansfield. The first of which is this: how did you first get involved with the Stags, he asks, and was it an easy or difficult decision?
So I first got involved during May 2020, COVID was around, and I was working from a family's business, and we'd sold Wigan. My family had sold Wigan 2 years before that in 2018, and I was missing football, to be honest with you. There's something about it that grabs you back in and entices you back in, and I was lucky enough to know John and Carolyn, and they'd moved abroad and different things, and we just struck up a conversation, and the opportunity came from there really, yeah, so far I've loved it, but I want to be part of something that shows progress, and I think we have done that, but ultimately we'll probably get judged on is the club in League One or not, so hopefully whether it's a season or the following season, that will show that.
He asks, how do you feel you've done?
Yeah, for everybody else to answer, I suppose. I'll let other people answer that, yeah. I feel I've done okay.
Are you committed for the long haul, he asks?
This is your life, is it?
We've not started yet, believe me.
Well, in football, you can't say anything because something could happen tomorrow. But like Nigel said, 1 minute you win 3 on the bounce, the next minute you get beat by Salford, you 5-1 down at one point. So I'd like to think so, but I think success. I think there has to be sort of a level of success, and that's we'll finish in the playoffs again. That's 2 years on the bounce. Things off the pitch are going better, but there's a lot of things, and people will probably say the stadium's not good enough, and Bishop Street and different things, and there's only so much you can do at one point, and it also there's the owners, John and Carolyn. It's their ambition. It's what if they're happy with me. There has to be sensible conversations, but so far I'll just carry on and crack on and let's see where that takes us.
Final one from Sean. He asks, any thoughts of you investing in the club?
Investing. I'll leave that to John and Carolyn to invest. I'm not from the area. I haven't grown up, and I can't say I've grown up supporting the club, and like you guys have. For me, it's a job, and I love coming into work. I love working in football. I love working with Nigel and the guys and the staff at the stadium, everybody. But for me, no, for investing in a football club isn't you don't see a return on your money. So.
He's not that daft.
But to be honest with you, with the levels of finance that John and Carolyn have put in over the years, that 100% credit to them, because to keep on doing it year after year and getting so close like we did last season at Wembley, and it takes a lot of passion and drive and deep pockets to keep going back in, and they've not wavered from their ambition, and so I'll leave them to keep on investing.
That's the only reason we've got a chance, isn't it? Because the owners, what they do for the club and they invest, that's what gives us the chance.
Another one for you, David. It's from Roger Stevenson, no relation, I assure you, from Ilkeston. He says, in light of recent near sellouts in the home stands, is there a plan in place to increase the capacity of the stadium? If we get promoted this season, he says, how could this be implemented in time for the start of next season so we don't miss out on the additional support and revenue that will surely be generated?
It would be very tough to get it done for the start of next season, and hopefully we do get promoted. But yeah, like you saw on Saturday, it was very close to selling out. The home ends anyway, we didn't quite, but we were very close. The away end definitely didn't get close to selling out. So it all comes down to the obvious, which is the stand opposite this one, which is Bishop Street. There are plans in place. However, John and Carolyn have always discussed, if we were in League One, that's something they might push the button on. Again, it's their money, it's their decisions. I don't want to say it's going to happen because it will be a big investment. It's not cheap at all, what I've seen. And there's various things you could go for a stand like they have at Harrogate or at Salford, where it's sort of just a 2,000 seater or all standing, for instance, if you're allowed to do that, which is literally just dropped in. But then you still have the issues with the houses just behind the stand, and there's the space. Also in the summer you have the renovation period of the pitch, when you sort of take the turf up and put it back down. You'd need access, so there'd be lorries driving all over the pitch. There's a lot to think about. It's not just going to happen in the space of a few months. It's probably going to be somewhere between a year and two if it does happen. But again, it's a decision that the owners ultimately, if we do get promoted 1 year, it's their money, it's their club. But that is the simple way to help to grow attendances, because we're nearly now hitting that max, and hopefully we're doing it on a regular basis, and I'm sure if the team keep performing, then we will be.
A question about Bishop Street from Charlie Grant in Mansfield. He says, would away fans be allocated in Bishop Street if the plans go ahead? If it comes to opening a stand over there, as he says, Stags fans behind both nets would be solid.
Yeah, that is something, and you could, for instance, if you were in a higher league, you might have. I mean, if you look at League One now, you've got Derby, Barnsley, Sheff Wednesday, clubs like that, and the current North stand, which obviously away fans, ideally you'd rather have more than what they get in that stand, because they would bring 3,000, 4,000 Sheffield Wednesday if they could. So that would make sense. But the only thing that is again a difficulty is the access, because you have coaches and can they go up the two streets and different things. There's so much to consider. But that would be something that you might look at for sure, is having the two ends behind the goal as home fans. This obviously as home fans, and then following as a way.
Alan Boff from Mansfield says, if rebuilding the Bishop Street stand is not possible at this time, what is the possibility of widening or building over the top of I think he means here, the current stands? As he says, they were never built to the correct size when new. This would give us the extra capacity we need in Division 1, he adds.
So building on top of this stand?
Yeah, I think that's what he meant.
It couldn't go any higher, could you, on this one?
Well,
surely. It's got to be the two end ones.
Yeah, this is. Yeah, I'd imagine you use the two ends to match the height of this one. But
yeah, maybe so.
Again, we're talking. Everything comes down to money. Everything does. It's a big outlay, and you have to like. I wasn't here when this stadium was built. I mean, not many people. I mean, and it's not done perfectly by any stretch of the imagination, and so and the owners obviously didn't. They kept John and Carolyn didn't build the stadium and they just took it over. So I think if we could rewind X amount of years, there's a lot of things we would change and we would do differently. But it is what it is, and we've sort of. There are frustrations, not just the size of the stands, there's the hospitality lounges, the toilets, everything. You change everything that you could, but ultimately that's a new stadium and 15-20 million pounds. So it's probably similar to my experience with Wigan. I was only young, but we had Springfield Park there, but a few of you might have been to, and we then built the JJB Stadium, which was my granddad's obviously built that, and a 25,000 seater. And you're looking at sort of 25 million pounds, and it had everything. It was double the size of what we needed because we didn't have that many pounds. But it's just huge amounts of money and everything. And I know people will say, well, you might get it back over time with extra ticket income and different things, but it's the initial outlay which is a big cost.
David Welsh has asked a similar question about plans to enlarge the capacity, but I think you've covered them quite adequately.
I think there used to be a lot of grants which have been cut back, haven't they, quite considerably. When you did ground improvement at a lower league level, then you got quite a substantial percentage through grants and everything, but they've stopped all that now, I think. Hopefully with this new regulation or stuff that's coming through with the Premier League, they might share a little bit more money so lower league clubs can do things like that again.
Yeah, and recently we've for instance, there was a bit of a wash up from the COVID sort of fund that the Premier League gave to clubs, and each club has been given a certain amount of money, and League One, League Two a set amount each, and that is to go on sort of stadium improvements and fan experience improvements, albeit it's not huge sums of money. So things like the scoreboard that we did, that can be backdated and things like that. So they're helping out to a degree, but like Nigel said, with the potential of a new TV deal in place in a couple of years' time, and how much more income we might be getting from that, it might be opportunities further down the line. But as far as just building a new stand and can we get Bishop Street done, it does come down to probably what league we're in, and if John and Carolyn are happy to do it. But they invest huge amounts of money every year in this football club. So it's something that hopefully it happens and we can have that conversation, but let's obviously try and get it alive first.
One for you, Nigel, from Alan Whitworth in Mansfield. Is Elliot Hewitt going to sign a new contract, as I believe it is due to expire at the end of the season?
Yes, it is due to expire, but we do have an option on it, so technically it has to 18 months left, but we have entered into negotiations to extend that by a year. That was started a few weeks ago, I believe.
Yeah, probably a bit longer than that. I'm dealing with his agent, and it's so far progressing very well. So
yep, he has got more than this year left.
Okay.
But when people say the contract's up, they don't know about options and things like that. So which a lot of players have in the deals.
Back to you, David. I think you've answered part of this question, certainly, but I'll ask it in full anyway. From Alan Whitworth again. How is the club performing from a financial point of view, and are the owners still having to contribute?
They definitely are having to contribute. One call, and obviously John and Carolyn's company put in huge amounts of money every year. So without them, we'd be in a tricky place. So yeah, but we are. The season ticket income was we sold nearly double what we did last season. Obviously, that goes hand in hand with the turnover. So so things are going well off the pitch. Hospitality sold out near enough every week on a match day. Commercially, Michael's doing a good job, very good job, attracting new sponsors. So things are going very well. But don't get me wrong, one call with John and Carolyn is a vast amount of our turnover, and the money they put into the club is fire there.
Another one for you, David. Alan's final question is this for you. With home gates increasing on match days, it is now becoming harder, he says, to gain access to the food and drinks bar and toilets in the Ian Greaves upper stand. Is this becoming a health and safety risk due to the congestion of people in these areas? And have the club got plans to improve these areas?
Are there any questions for Nigel?
Not at first glance.
If we did this 6 weeks ago, there would be plenty of questions. But obviously we had a good quarter window and good results, so yeah, so kiosks. Obviously with the high demand and with the increased attendances and the footfall through the stands and through the stadium, it's one thing that's always been quite a hot topic, kiosks and the queues and the service, etc. We're definitely putting in place bottle bars dotted around in the sort of areas in and around the kiosk, so you can, if you do only want a beer or if you do only want a drink, you just go to that bottle bar and hopefully that eases the flow. But it is tough running the kiosk. A lot of clubs outsource, we don't, and to be honest with you, when we have spoke to a couple, they didn't really want to have us because they're focusing on Championship and Top League One, where they're getting sort of chef Wednesday at 25,000 or whatever. So we do it on ourselves, and it is tough. We're trying to improve things. Don't get no doubt everybody will have a bit of a moan about it, saying that the lines are too big and the pies aren't good enough and whatever it is. But it isn't an easy job. We're trying to improve things, and hopefully that with the sort of bottle bars that you'll notice hopefully soon, that will improve things. What was the other question about? Was it health?
Yeah, he says, is it a health and safety risk, or is it becoming a health and safety risk with the congestion?
Well, the areas were built with the sort of capacity, with the seats in mind. So there's nothing from a health and safety point of view there. But again, it's just how the stadium was built. There's not much I can do, and we can do about the space. We can try these queues, and we can. No doubt everybody was aware at the start of the season when the turnstiles were playing up a bit, and that was something we had to deal with quite quickly to sort out. And I think we've got to the bottom of that now. I haven't seen the queues anywhere near what they were. So there's always little improvements that we can make, but when it comes to kiosks, it will probably be an issue we have for many a year, but we'll just try and ease it with these sort of bottle bars and different ideas that we have.
Another one, David, for you, from Nigel Boff in Mansfield. He says, hello there. I am a season ticket holder in the Quarry Lane end and the club car park. I'm happy to wait 30 minutes after the final whistle before trying to leave the ground. Why can't Quarry Lane be closed for that length of time to allow pedestrians to safely leave? By that, I also mean no cars coming into Quarry Lane from either end for also 30 minutes. He goes on, with the North Stand Gate usually closed, we are looking at over 6,000 people currently all going out via Quarry Lane. Surely we don't have to wait for a road traffic accident before something is done about it. Some other clubs have road closures at full time. Have we asked Notts County Council if we could do it?
This should be like a night with Alan Lakin and Alex, who runs the stadium. We did the issues that you might have seen last season when supporters were leaving on foot at the same time as cars. We've addressed something my first season here was COVID, so we were behind closed doors, but we didn't have that issue. But as soon as I saw it the following season, I thought that's wrong. You can't have supporters. I've seen two fans and then they get run over, and I thought, no, you can't have that. So we addressed that, and obviously now the gates and the stewards stop people from leaving and driving out for 15, 20 minutes or so until it clears. The issue with Quarry Lane, I've noticed it myself when I'm driving in sometimes on a match day, is that you get taxis pulling up and you get people getting dropped off, and it causes a massive backlog. Especially when people are trying to cross the road and there's cars blocking, you can't quite see it. It's very dangerous, and like you said, that I'm surprised we've not had an accident. There might have been one that I'm not aware of, but we've spoke to the council about it. It comes up in SAG meetings, and it's something we can't physically put it in place. However, something that is going to be put in place, I believe, following the last SAG meeting, would be police enforcement. So you can't just pull up anymore. The taxis can't just pull up and block the road. So that's something that I believe is going to be in place pretty soon.
One from Mel Furness. She asks, for you, David, why is the Sandy Paint Bar only open early on away matches and not home games, as more revenue could be earned on home matches? Plus, she says, why isn't there internet in the Sandy Paint Bar, because signal on data is rubbish. You get it for a minute, then it disappears again. You have to go outside and get on the internet, and sometimes that doesn't work either. You're getting a lot.
I thought it's normally questions about signings and left backs and things like that. Okay, the internet, we've been having issues with the tills, and they've been playing up, and it's all done via the Wi-Fi and through the internet, so that's something on a match day, the last thing we need is the tills going down, because that would then cause chaos. So that's something that, and if you go to any stadium, me included, I try and get on the 4G, I try and get on the data to check the scores, and sometimes it's very slow because you have a lot of people, thousands of people losing at the same time, so that's just, we can't really help that. Go on, what else was there?
It was about Sandy's, could it be open earlier on a home game? Home games.
Something we could look at, I mean, we're looking at 10 AM, 5 hours before kick-off. They might not see.
Do you know what I like around here? We like to start early.
It's something we could have a look at for sure. We do it for the bigger away games when we're taking quite a few coaches by doing a bit of breakfast for the people travelling. But as long as the sort of the costs work out, because we're going to have to open it and have staff in, and it's something Jonathan and Alex will have to discuss. But I'm just not sure it will cover what it takes, because I can't see loads turning up 4 hours before kick-off. But again, we could have a look at it and one game and see how it does, but Jonathan and Alex would be better placed to deal with that than me.
The gaffer's back in, we've got one for you. It's from Peter Burton. He says, as we now have a squad that, due to injuries, is now down to the bare bones, to me, he says, it seems ridiculous that we are letting fringe players like Jimmy Knowles go out on loan, when in order to fill the bench against Salford, we had to include 2 academy players who had already played earlier in the day. Can one of you explain, please? But obviously, as the manager, you're in a better position.
Well, Jimmy went to Kettering 2 hours before Will Swan got injured. It seems to be the way, similar to Rhys Oates. When he got injured early season, that was, I think, a week after Danny Johnson had gone to Walsall. So we can't predict those sorts of things. And to lose 3 players in the first half at Bradford, if you could have put a bet on that and predicted that, I would have put a few quid on myself. So you can't tell with injuries, especially the nature of the injuries that we've had. Very, very few muscle injuries, and mostly contact injuries, and the 2 almost freakish shoulder injuries that we've had.
Steve, you have rules in place as well. People might not be aware, but for instance, Jimmy's loan, you can't recall them straight away. It has to be X amount of days, 28 days, for instance. So, yeah, it would have been an ideal situation to recall Jimmy straight away, because we needed him on the. However, there's rules in place, and you can't just do that.
Yeah.
We did try to do it.
One from Dennis Ball for you, Nigel. He asks, for a long trip to an away match, what preparation does the team go through, i.e. travel, hotel overnight, and then what happens during that day for a night match?
It all depends on the distance. Say for Carlisle a couple of weeks ago, we left RH just after 9 o'clock and went to Lancaster, where the players had lunch, had a walk, and they go to the rooms, rest for a few hours, get up, have a pre-match, we have a meeting, go through the set plays, an hour and a quarter then to Carlisle, play the game and drive home. Simple as that. We're very fortunate, a lot of clubs that we're in a position to be able to get the hotel for the day and stop. A lot of clubs will go on the day and just stop maybe for pre-match and everything, but it's nice to break it up and have that rest, because it is for those who went 4 odd hours to Carlisle on a coach, and it's not ideal to sort of have that sort of time sitting down. Leave it, say 1 o'clock and do it and have pre-match. You're spending sort of 4 hours out of 6 on the bus, and it's not ideal preparation. Which is why all the Premier League clubs, whether you agree with it or not, rather than sit 2 hours on a coach, they go 20 minutes on an aeroplane, because they don't want the players sitting on the coach.
if you speak to the players, I'm sure they don't actually, they'd rather not sit in a hotel and wait around. They get very lethargic. And that's something Nigel's being a player. I think they'd rather be in their own bed sometimes. So, whereas when I was at Wigan, for instance, they would always go the night before a game. Doesn't matter if it was an hour and a half away or whatever. And Nigel's not like that. He likes them being in their own bed and different things like that. Only if it's a really long away trip that stay overnight.
I think we set a limit of about an hour and a half to 2 hours or something like that, which fits in with if it's a 3 o'clock kick-off, we can have pre-match at our age at 11:30, leave about 12, and then we've got a sort of an hour and a half, hour and 45 window, so if we can reach it within that, then we'll try and do it. Stockport, Wimbledon obviously on Saturday, we'll have to go down Friday. Stockport's a tricky one because of getting over the tops isn't ideal, the quickest way on a bus, so we'll probably have to go overnight for that one, but we try not to if we can.
One for you, David, from Mark Willows at Kirby and Ashfield. This season, he says, we have changed the way how our home attendances are announced, from the actual number of fans present to the number of tickets sold. Why is that, and how does this benefit the club?
We were doing as well. Last season we were doing the same. Maybe before my time, it was the actual attendance rather than including all season ticket holders. Every club, I believe, or 90% of them, announce the tickets as if all season ticket holders have turned up. It's something that, I mean, if we could go back to just to doing the actuals. However, we always want to show a higher attendance because we're competing. When you see the average attendance of other clubs and you see them on social medias and Twitters and different things, they will be including all the season ticket holders. For instance, at Bradford, when I think the attendance was close to 18,000, their actual probably wasn't anywhere near that. But what they announce is as if all season ticket holders have turned up because they have sold those seats at the start of the season. The majority of clubs do that. We certainly did it at Wigan because otherwise our attendances actual would have been about 5,000-6,000 some games, and you can be a bit embarrassed about it, to be honest with you, when we're there. So, listen, if there's an appetite to do actuals and rather than including season ticket holders, then we can look at it. But it's normally affected by just a couple 100, 300 or so. You normally have the majority of your season ticket holders turn up because they bought a ticket for that reason. You might only have 10% or 8% that don't show.
Last question submitted before we open them up to the floor in the remainder of this first half. It's for you, David. It's from Wayne Randall from Swanwick. He says, I'm a season ticket holder in the Quarry Lane end along with my daughter. We've noticed some welcome improvements this season with refreshments, the cash bottle bar and the occasional visit of the coffee van. My question, he says, is based on the matchday experience and the cleanliness of the stadium. At the moment, some areas are looking very tired and some areas are pretty disgusting, pigeons being the main culprits. Do you have a plan to put a proper, robust cleaning plan in place? It seems between home games, nothing changes at the moment. He adds, this seems more important than ever at the moment with fantastic increased attendances. Some seats are really not fit to use due to the mess.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. However, we do have a team that do sweep the stadium after games and before games, but they're fighting a losing battle at times. They can on a Monday clean as much pigeon dirt as they want. By Friday, the majority of it's back again. So it's just trying to keep on top of it. We put some netting down in the Quarry Lane sort of family area, and they've even managed to wriggle through that and get out the pigeons. So we had a quote to do the whole of this stand, and it was ridiculous money. I just thought it was pretty cheap because it's netting, but it's. And then when we saw pigeons actually managing to get in through Quarry Lane, we thought, well, we don't want to spend a load of money for that to happen. There is somebody that is coming with a hawk, so hopefully that does the job. But you're not wrong in terms of, and the question isn't wrong. It can be cleaner, but the guys are doing all they can. It's something that probably look at a deep clean every now and then to really try and get to the bottom of it. But you are just fighting it because you can't really control the pigeons. You can do your best, but yeah, that's it really.
Okay.
I think so. I think a lot of football clubs have the same problem, don't they? We had it at Burton certainly, and they ended up getting the hawk in as well. It's an ideal thing for pigeons to go in under the stands. So.
Did it work, the hawk?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, let's open questions up to the floor. We'll take a handful in this first half. The majority will come in the second period. Hands up in the traditional fashion. Gentlemen at the back. The sparsely haired gentleman below the screen.
I've had it cut for tonight as well.
Look, Dashy. What's your question,
Thank you
sir?
very
Who's it
much.
to? If you'd stand up so we can see you, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I've got two questions, one for each. First one, David. Obviously, the club's got a rich history, and I wondered if there's things in the pipeline for like retro shirts or anything to honour players that have played before us, because we've obviously got Sandy's named, but obviously we've got a lot of younger fans that won't know Sandy Pate, so is there something, a plaque or something like that, that can explain to the younger generation what they did here for Mansfield Town, rather than just naming it and then letting everyone else explain it? I think it'd be nice to have a little something. You go to Carlisle or Tranmere, they've got statues up of their famous players. I just think it's something that we could look at to one of those.
Yeah, certainly. Obviously, it's not in place at the moment, but we can look at it. I'll speak to who I need to speak to and see if we can put something in place for that to happen. Yeah.
Magic. And my next question's for Nigel. Nigel, I think we're top or second top on away attendances this season. Obviously, it's been a cracking following by Stags fans all over. We're on 4 coaches already to Wimbledon, and that's just with the SSA. I wondered, do the players ever get on the bus and talk about the away following or pass comment on it?
All the time. We talk about it before as well. When we go out there to warm up, a lot of the time we'll go back in and they'll be talking. The dressing room will be before we go out at 2:45. Don't let them down today. They've travelled, they've paid the money, and the players are aware and are reminded of it also. The time and money that you spend following and everything. Don't let them down today.
Magic. Thank you.
Okay, hands up in the traditional fashion again. Yeah, we'll go to that gentleman at the back. We'll take a few more before we have a break.
Nigel, this one's for you because you were looking bored listening to David. On Saturday, Jordan Barry was cautioned, basically, for going down with all the grace of the Titanic sinking. What is your view on players diving, given your sporting and footballing background, from both ours doing it and the opposition?
Well, it's one of the things that television has highlighted, I think, and I think you'll see a reduction in it because of that, because players, they're trying to win penalties. I think Jordan just misjudged it. I've never seen him dive. It wasn't even a dive, it was that bad. I don't think you could call it a dive. I think he almost stumbled. He was that knackered from chasing the right winger for the last time. I think he just stumbled, so... It's one of the worst, I don't like to be xenophobic or anything, but the foreigners did bring it in to a certain degree because it's part of their game more abroad than it is over here. There's an inherent honesty to English football over the years, but I think especially at the highest level now, with there being so many cameras and so many things covered, I don't think it'll be, you'll see it as often. And everything. So some players almost anticipate a challenge, and that's different, you know. You think that you're going to get whacked or anything, you poke the ball away, and sometimes the challenge doesn't come, but you're already sort of on your way down anticipating it. And there's plenty of times over the years where that's happened and penalties have been given when they've proved later it's no contact, but that's all part of the game, you know, when you do that. But the actual really cheating one where you're trying to win it and con everybody, I think they have retrospective punishments for that now, and so they should.
There was a hand just... does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah.
Excellent. I think there was a hand just in front. Yeah, this gentleman on the third row. Yeah, if you just see the mic behind you, it's coming to you. There it is, right behind you. Who's your question to?
I'm surprised you say gentlemen, Steve. I mean, we go back a long way. I mean...
I can't see you, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, okay. Well, I've been coming here for... far more years than I care to remember. In fact, none of you were born when I started coming to the Stags, and that includes you, Nigel. But of course, we've heard tonight about how the club is growing. Now, you effectively tonight, Nigel, had a night off. It's almost been like an unused sub. But we all know you've got a lot of work still to do to get us where we hope you're going to take us, and I'm sure that you will. So, David, I'm surprised you've not brought a pad with you tonight, because the amount of stuff that's been thrown your way is incredible. But it's also very relevant because it's not all about the team, it's about the club. And you have heard fans witnessing certain things, and I would like to focus on a comment made by one of the questions, reference to Quarry Lane and also the North Gate. Now you may or may not be aware, but I've been in dialogue with the club for the last 10 weeks and talking about those two issues, and more recently in particular to Quarry Lane, it's just an accident waiting to happen. Now you've talked a lot tonight about you're going to think about it, you're going to look into it. Time is of the essence. You need to address that real problem at Quarry Lane because it's our fans that are suffering at both ends. So please, take it on board and let's have some action. Don't keep leaving it until tomorrow.
Yeah, so Quarry, you mean with the traffic?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can't shut the road. We've asked, so it comes up in every SAG meeting more or less, and it's something we're more than aware of. We've told the police, we've told the county, the local council, county council. So I agree, there is an accident waiting to happen when we all see it. So it's something we're pushing, but we cannot physically demand that they shut that road. It's for them to listen to us, and I'm sure they will. And then they put the road closure in place, because I think that's what it needs. It's pretty obvious to us all. So, but in the meantime, we are trying to mitigate against it about doing what we can do. I.e., we can shut the car park. That is ours. We own that. That is our land. We have requested, obviously, for there to be a police enforcement rule where people can't just pull up and block the whole road. So we're doing as much as we can, and I do agree, and action is needed now, and hopefully the local council will take that on board and listen to us.
Not forgot this side. We'll take two more questions and then we'll have a break. We'll come to you after, so because this gentleman had his hand up. Yeah, with the mic.
I just wanted to go back to football and talk about football a little bit. Nigel, last season, fantastic season. The formation you played, 4-4-2 diamond, something like that. It's some of the best football we've seen in years, to be honest with you. This season we seem to have abandoned it a little bit. We've obviously gone 5 at the back. I just wondered if what was the reason behind that, especially because centre midfield is probably our strongest area, or on paper anyway. And then the other question, if it's okay, is we've had a fantastic January transfer window, genuinely. We're still not sorted that left-back issue out though. Just wondered why that hasn't been done. I know we've got players to play there who are right-footed. Just isn't the same without left-footed, unfortunately. For me anyway, they're my 2 questions, if that's alright.
Yeah, well, the diamond we played at times last season, not all the time, but at times. And when we looked at it in the summer, we thought we had the players to play 3 at the back. And if we've changed a couple of times, we've been with it recently because it's produced our most points with that system this season. And also we look back historically in the last couple of seasons, Forest Green got out with it last year. The teams who've been promoted in the last few seasons have played 3 or 5 at the back, however you want to say. So that was one of the reasons also. There must be something, if 80% of the teams playing that formation have gone up, the other teams might find it difficult to play against. So it was a general thing, and this season, I haven't been a fan of it at times this season, but it's produced the most points. That's why we go with it at times, and the personnel suits it. I think now having Alfie Kilgore since January and putting him in the middle of the 3, James Birch has come back a little bit physically from where he was before Christmas, but Riley Harbottle or Elliot Hewitt, they're a good 3, and we've got people who can play wing back as well. The one we've missed more than anybody this season is Stephen McLaughlin at left back. He won just about every award, did he, last season and everything. So when we sit down in the summer and we go through the recruitment, we think, right, can we get somebody in to cover him or whatever? But he played 90% of the games last season, and now to miss half of the games or whatever, nobody expected. In January we did look at left backs. We had Lewis Page. We brought him in as a free agent in, I believe, November. He got injured in the Notts Senior Cup game at Notts County. We had him earmarked as a sort of backup. So he got the injury. Didn't get up to speed by January. Steve McLaughlin got injured again. So then we've got Jordan, we've got Kieran Wallace, and we've just had to fill in. There wasn't room for us to bring another one in January We brought the 4 in that we got, so we were concentrating on those and we thought they were more important. And Jordan's performances before Saturday, where he was up against an exceptional player, have been outstanding there in the last week. You know, we went to Carlisle and to Tranmere. He played left wing back there, and he was possibly man of the match in one or both of the games. So he's done a job. He's done a job for us. We hope Steve McLaughlin will be back in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But there's not many out there, honestly. We looked in January, and there wasn't many out there. And then again, if you bring people in sort of now, somebody asked this morning in the press about free agents, you're going to spend a few weeks getting them up to speed, and the lads are going to be fit by then anyway. So.
Yeah, we came close to signing a left back in January, but that club we were getting him from were waiting on signing a left back to replace him. They couldn't find one, so we were up against it. We thought it was going to get done, so we are trying, and no doubt that is a top priority for the summer.
We'll take 2 more before an interval, ladies and gentlemen. These 2 here, this gentleman at the front in the blue, please, James. And then we'll come to you, sir. Last 2 before an interval. Who's your question to?
Make them for David if you can.
Sorry, David, it's Nigel. Subject of officials. Most of the people I sit next to, I've got a view that officials in this league are pretty awful. And I think you probably agree some of the time, because you spend a lot of your energy berating the 4th official.
Not berating, talking, discussing, seriously, just trying to... Seriously, not berating, we're trying to get an explanation of the decisions that the referee is making.
From where I sit, it looks like berating. But the question is, does it do any good?
Well, all we're seeking is an explanation. Why is he giving that? And then they're all mic'd up, so they've got constant communication between them. So there's no reason, a little break in the game, why they can't ask that question and then give us an explanation. Because when Andy takes the team sheet in before and in these pre-season meetings, we all want to talk, we all want to get on, we all want to communicate and all this. Well, they're not too keen on explaining the decisions sometimes. I thought Saturday's was very poor. I thought the 2 before that, Ben Toner and Lee Swarby, the 2 we had, Tranmere and Carlisle, were as good as we've had all season. I think the standard is too up and down. I think we have some very, very good referees and we have some crap ones. And I'd like to see the younger ones come through and be given a go to see if they can do it, because there's some referees who are nearly as old as me and you who have been refereeing at this level for too long. Now, if they're not going to get promoted, they're obviously not good enough to get promoted, so, you know, get the younger ones through and see if they're better.
I don't think you haven't been carded, have you?
No. We only have one compulsory fine within the system, Diane'll tell you, and that's for dissent. So if any player gets booked for dissent, he gets fined 10% of his wage, then he gets done 25, then 50 and 100%. That's the only compulsory fine that we have in place. If somebody gets, like Perch gets sent off for bringing the lad through a few weeks back or months ago, that's a good decision to make in football terms. We got a point from the game, so we don't fine them for that, only for dissent.
Last one to finish the half, ladies and gentlemen, from that gentleman just behind. That's it.
Question for Nigel. I think most people would say that Ryan Arbottle and Will Swan have been a real success since coming to the club. So my question is it in your thoughts and plans, I know it's a little bit early maybe, with 14 odd games left, but is it in your thoughts to look at negotiating with Nottingham Forest, possibly approach them and see whether we could actually sign them, get them on a contract, or at least another loan for another season, especially for in Division 1?
Definitely they've done that. I think they've been a success. When you bring young players in like that, you're not quite sure how much they're going to contribute, how much they're going to play. It's Riley Harbottle's first loan, because everyone will know the history about his illness in a way. He was very ill for a while. Will Swan went to Port Vale and hardly had kicked the ball for 12 months. So it's really the first loans, and they've both contributed more than we anticipated at the start of the season. In terms of getting them to drop down to League 2 from the Premier League club where they are, it's tricky. On the staff of a Premier League club come and commit full time to a League 2 side. If we go up, we'll have a better opportunity. But until we know what league we're in, and also Forest obviously hold all the cards with that. But the 2, we like them very much indeed.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That completes the first half. We'll have a 10 to 15 minute interval. But for now, your appreciation for our guests. More questions from you now, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to this gentleman here Third row from the front. Who's your question to, sir?
Well, it's to Nigel, I think. A couple of years ago, first time you did a forum here, I asked you about what you felt with the referees. And I think earlier on tonight you've given us a more adequate answer than you did at that time. But what is your thoughts on trying to get ex-professional footballers to take up the whistle? So if we look back a few months ago, there was a big tournament and the gentleman who ran the final was I believe ex-Portugal or Poland or something player that went on to do it. You know, we are seeing them. I agree what you said about trying to get the youngsters through, but now we're having to see the youngsters, or the referees at grassroots, are having to start wearing body cams because the abuse and everything they go through. So what's the thoughts on getting some of these players that's retiring to probably try and do something about it?
Well, I don't want to answer a question with a question, but why don't you think they do it?
Well, money I would think could possibly...
Only at the top level.
Yeah.
At the top level, after a few years, they don't need to work, so that's money at the top level. What about all the others? What about the League 2 and League 1 players that retire? Why do you think they don't do it?
I don't know, really. I mean, abuse, probably because they know what it's like.
That's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
Any others you might think? What about the Referees Association don't want it?
Well, I can understand that. I don't think it's right. But
no. What about if it's a little bit of a closed shop and they don't want ex-players involved?
Yeah, I can understand. I agree with what you say. You know,
Howard Webber's recently taken over and has actually opened the door slightly to, I think, ex-players. But what ex-players, and they shouldn't do, is they shouldn't have to start right at the bottom.
No.
They should go in a little bit because there should be a little bit degree of understanding that they have played at a certain level of professional football. However, if they go in at a certain level and they're not good enough, they don't make it.
Yeah.
Like everybody else.
Well, that's right. You've got to learn.
They shouldn't have to start doing under 8s or something like that. Put them in at a certain level with all the training and everything, integrate them. If they want to do that, the referees.
Yeah.
And let's see if you can get half a dozen through. See, it's about the only sport where ex-players don't do it. Cricket umpires, tennis umpires, whatever, rugby, most of them are ex-players.
Yes.
But the main reason are the abuse that they get from parents at a grassroots level is absolutely disgraceful, and that shouldn't stop. You know, that shouldn't be a hindrance to youngsters starting refereeing. It really shouldn't. However, for ex-professional footballers to do it, get the referees to open their doors, and then we'll see where we go.
I think with what you said, Howard Webb, I think things are happening. Slowly, but they are happening. Thank you.
Pleasure. Okay, next question. Any from this block? No, okay, this person here. Third row from the front, yes.
Evening. Question to either Nigel or David. Early on in the season, we were like an experimental 1 o'clock start game to do with the saving of energy and whatever. So my guessing is that after that game, you guys would have had conversations with the FA, probably Sky Sports and whoever. Was that, at the end of the day, regarded as a success or a failure? And is there any plans to repeat it or continue it, would you say, in the future?
Yeah, this one's more for me than Nigel. I read the forums, which I do sometimes. It's not all the time, not after games, because they're not always. But you have to get fans' reactions and gauge their reaction to how it was. And it was quite a while ago now, so it was quite emotional at the time, and people had opinions on it, and a lot of people really disagreed with it. Some people understood why. However, yeah, it was something that we looked at. And we felt it wasn't necessary to continue that. Just the general feeling around from the supporters, from you guys, will always be led by you. It was done with the best of intentions, and games are always moved for TV, and now from possibly 24-25 season onwards, things might dramatically change because of the potential TV deal, and that's not just Mansfield, that's all clubs. But that game in particular, the Walsall game, probably something. I mean, I spoke about it with John and the board, and probably regret it if anything, just because you want to go with what the fans believe, and you guys love 3 o'clock kickoffs. We've done a couple of Friday night games that have a good atmosphere, but that was done with the best of intentions, and it wasn't to upset anybody. and that's why we haven't done it again since.
What do people think about Friday night games? Anybody against them?
Shall we have a show of hands? Who's for Friday night games? Just as a bit of a test, litmus test. Who's against? Okay. Would anybody like to comment on why they're against? Would that be useful? Yeah?
I suppose it's more if it's not every week. If it's sporadic, it's fine.
If we could just get the mic to you, just for the video purposes, that'd be great.
Yeah. So what, if we had 3 or 4 a season, something like that?
Yeah, just sporadic really. You know, 3 o'clock kickoffs is what everybody loves. But people know under the lights on a Friday night is not bad. Just as long as it's not every week.
Okay.
Something going forward that we can look at for next season, 3 or 4. Put them in. Anybody got problems work-wise that they can't make Friday night? Is it a real sort of,
A few here, a few hands here, 2 or 3 there, and 4 and 5. Yeah, I saw a hand there. Fourth from the back, I think. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. First to Nigel regarding Danny Johnson. What I've seen since Danny's come back, I just watched him during knockabout before a game, and to me, I don't know what his attitude was like in training, but his attitude on the pitch just before that, it's not a good view, and I think I say that for a lot of people. I just wonder what his attitude was like during training. And also for David, regarding the PA system, it's not been good for years and years now, and I just wondered if there's any plans to update it in the future.
Do you want to answer the Danny Johnson question first, and then we'll move on to
He's fine in training, no problems. Danny does one thing, he scores goals, so you put him on the pitch when you need a goal. So every time we've needed a goal since he's come back, we've put him on the pitch. Half-time at Bradford, we tried to get him on when they scored the 3rd goal on Saturday. It didn't happen in time, and then they scored the 4th very quickly. But we put him on the pitch. That's his strength, scoring goals. He's not going to work as hard for the team as the other players. Certainly, he has a different, just a different approach to that sort of side of the game. So if we need a goal, we'll use him. But in training, his attitude's been fine.
Right, okay.
It's no secret. He would have preferred to have stayed at Walsall for the second half of the season. He's gone there. He scored goals. He felt comfortable there, and if you gave him a choice, he would have preferred to do that. That's no secret.
Okay, and the PA system was the second question.
Yeah, that is something we looked at. We've had a company out, and they've quoted up for it. It does need doing, certainly, and the report I got back from this company that came to look at it was that certain things have been put in place that are wrong and shouldn't be at a football stadium, and they don't carry sound well enough and different things. So if we're going to do it, we're going to do it properly rather than just trying to sort of put a plaster on it, and it needs to be done properly across the whole stadium, because it's fan experience. You want to hear the music, you want to hear Alan when he's on the tunnel, you want to hear the messages properly, the music more than anything for the atmosphere before the game and half time. But you're looking probably at a cost of when he got it through, it was roughly 100k, which when you think of speakers, you think, wow, but there's more to it than just that. So yeah, like I said, everything costs money. However, hopefully John and Carolyn approve it. It's something I'm putting to them, because just like they did with the scoreboard with the screen for the first time ever on Saturday, not that we wanted highlights, but we had highlights on it. It was meant to be done for the Doncaster game when we won 4-1. Steve-O.
We have some questions for Steve.
But I got a text early that morning saying all's good for Doncaster, all's going to be working. The first goal went in, was it quite early, the first goal? It was, wasn't it? And I texted you 2 minutes after saying where the bloody hell was that highlight, and he didn't reply. And it was the following week, the whole of the iFollow crashed, which wasn't just Mansfield, but it was across the league, so we couldn't show them. I think that was against Gillingham, and then finally got them on against Salford, but a game which we conceded 5 goals. So that's a positive, and they signed off on the scoreboard, and that's been a big improvement. The ticketing system was a cost, but hopefully, and no doubt, obviously, it was referred to earlier, that's been a big improvement. And the tannoy system is another obvious one that because the question is always about Bishop Street and increasing stands and kiosks, but one thing that I know we can do definitely, if approved and if the finances work, is the Tano system.
They couldn't get rid of the pigeons at the same time, could they? Well,
Okay, next question. Yes, there's a hand there, almost at the back there. Who's your question to?
Right, question to Nigel. Christy Pym had a good season, then got injured. Scott Flinders came in, and I think everyone will agree that he's done exceptional. Why have you changed it and not kept him in goal? That's the first question.
because I think Christie's a better goalkeeper.
Simple as that.
Simple as that.
Okay.
You've got the best team on the pitch.
Okay.
We're the best team on the pitch. Christie's our number one. Scott did incredibly well for 3 games. I've just been talking before we came in today about, I think we have an option on him for next season because he's absolutely brilliant to have around the place and as good a number 2 as you'll have. I just think Christie's better.
Okay, thank you. Second, Iran Boateng, marquee signing. Thoughts so far this season?
Started the season absolutely brilliant. Pre-season and early season was our player, best player by a country mile. Has had a few problems since then. He got injured, 1 or 2 things, personal things, not bad things or anything. I hope he doesn't mind me saying his girlfriend's expecting a baby. He got a puppy, he got things and things like that. Which are big things in his life. He's had knocks, he's had injuries, he's not quite hit the form he did pre-season, but he's showing signs of coming back, and he's pretty close to getting back in the team. And if the team hadn't have done so well in the last 6 games, then he certainly would have featured before now. But the midfield 3 have done so well. Certainly in the week where we got the 3 wins, it's difficult to get him in. But we're very, very pleased with him. He's a very, very good quality player, and he he put a goal in this morning in training, absolutely brilliant, similar to one he did pre-season. But just start with the injuries and everything has been, like quite a few players unfortunately, they haven't been able to get that rhythm and that run of games.
Thanks, Nigel. Final question, Jason Law.
Yeah.
Spoke to you last season.
Yeah.
At the end of this, and I think you rate him quite highly.
Yes.
He's had injuries this season.
The same.
Just can't seem to get a run of
The
games, and I know you've got quality in that midfield as well, so he's going to be down the pecking order. But I think whenever he comes on, he looks really good. He's tidy on the ball, good first touch.
Yeah.
Creates a goal. Just seems a bit of a shame he doesn't get more chances.
Yeah, because of the strength in that area. What we think he needs is really, and we've tried several times this season, is to get him out on loan to go and play for 2 or 3 months and really get that run of games, and then come back when he's had 10 or 12 games under his belt, and let's see what sort of shape he's in. Every time we've tried to do that, it's either we've had injuries and then he's been on the bench, or he's got injured himself, which he has a few times this season. We've got plans to get him out in January, and it's all lined up for him to go Conference North, I believe, Conference or Conference North. Then we got the injuries, and he's been on the bench just about ever since. So, but still, we still think he's a good player, and he's certainly part of our squad.
Brilliant, thanks, Nigel. Steve-O, one for you.
About time. There we go. Come on.
Tony Delahunty. I hope not. Last season, when we started doing well, he seemed to come on board all of a sudden and then start doing all interviews. You dropped off, not doing any on iFollow. Can you just confirm that this season that is not going to happen?
Yes, I can confirm that.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. That's how I answer them. Right, where's the next hand? Yeah, Alan at the front here. Mike's coming to you. There it comes, Alan. Who's your question to?
It's to both of them actually. First one to Nigel, if I may. When you look at a player and you find a player that you want, who has the final say? Is it the manager or the gentleman with the purse strings?
Both. Well, we recommend the players and we say we'd like to sign him for this reason. And then obviously there's a decision above us as to whether we sign them or not. All we can do is recommend them. We think this player will fit in, whatever. And then we go from there, and David will make the case to the owners.
And it's as simple as that?
Very simple, yeah. We don't have a massive scouting network in terms of, we go out and watch the games ourselves, myself, Simon, Gary, Andy, Michael Forsyth, the only other one that we have on the road. They're at 3 games tonight. Simon's at Harrogate, Gary's gone to watch Wimbledon before we play them on Saturday, and Michael Forsyth has gone to Kettering to watch the 3 lone players we have.
Thank you. And David, just realistically, on a Mansfield Town Football Club footing, where do you think we'll be in the next 5 years?
I think, being honest, everything is in place at the football club, from certainly staff, from Nigel and his team. I think the squad we're putting together is every window is. I mean, the window we've just had, in my opinion, was very strong. I think if you look at how the squad was 2.5, 3 years ago to how it is now, I think we're definitely progressing. It's a shame because Nigel hasn't probably been able to put his best team on the pitch for one game yet this season. We've had so many injuries and to different positions. I mean, if you look at our midfield, when they're all fit, I don't know who he's gonna pick. I mean, it's so strong. So I do think we're making progress every window. I think the training ground, the RH Academy, is something you don't see in League Two. So in 5 years' time, there's no reason why this club. You've got to be realistic. There's people that say, "Oh, we'll be champion." Like, you have to be realistic, and you look at the top end of League One now, and you've got Sheffield Wednesday, Derby, big football clubs that you'd have to sort of. You can't say, "Oh, I want to be there." I think there's no reason why in 5 years' time, League One, middle of League One is. I don't think that's unrealistic when you see the clubs that are competing there, the likes of Fleetwood at 9th or 10th or 11th, Shrewsbury and around it at 10th possibly. Now Mansfield's no different to them. We're very sort of probably got bigger fan bases than the likes of Fleetwood. So, but it all comes down to good recruitment being the key, good staff, and belief. You need a bit of luck every now and then, which I don't think we get much of. If I'm being brutally honest, I do think. And injuries especially this season, because they're not soft tissue injuries. You can normally look at that at training. Nigel look at that saying, "Well, we're doing too much," but they're all sort of freakish injuries. Whether it's Perchie last season with his skull, Oatsy rupturing his pec, which is like an injury you wouldn't see in football. So I do think with a bit of luck, with good recruitment, good investment, which the owners have always provided, good people, I don't see any reason why we can't be in League One. And sort of stable in League One, but there's other clubs in our league. Look at Bradford, a massive football club. They've been struggling to get out of this league for a bit. They would probably say the same. They'd probably say, "Oh, we should be in the Championship." So you've got to be realistic about where we think we can get to. And I don't see any reason why in 5 years' time that can't be the case.
Thank you. There's still no guarantees for everything you put in place. Still no guarantees. You look at Bristol Rovers on the last day of the season. Northampton were up. We all thought Northampton were up with 2-3 up at Barrow, and then all of a sudden Bristol Rovers scored 7 against Scunthorpe. Northampton ended up beating in the playoffs. It's not fair football at times. It really isn't fair.
Thank you.
And sorry, Forest Green. Who would have bet Forest Green being bottom of League One? When you watched them last season, the outstanding team in League Two, you thought if there's one team going to survive this season in League One and prosper and do okay, it's Forest Green. We're adrift, 8 points adrift at the bottom of League One.
Yeah, the best club, I think, the best ran club outside of the Premier League and have punched massively above the weight of a club that you probably weren't playing too long ago, Luton. If you look at what they've done, and their recruitment has been unbelievable, and the selection of managers, whether that's Nathan Jones or Rob Edwards now, and it's only you go to the stadium and they definitely are struggling for the stadium. It's not the best by any stretch of the imagination, but off what they do on the pitch and their recruitment team and the head coaches, it's phenomenal. And now look at them, they're in playoffs in the Championship. So anything is possible, but there has to be a sense of sort of realism to it as well.
Okay, thank you. Yes, young lad at the front.
Hi, it's a question to David. So as we are a family club, and for the younger generation coming in, I think it would be good to bring back like player meet and greets and like football activities for the younger generation, like the community. Like a couple of players now and again could go have a kick about with them.
Yeah, we do a lot of with FITC, with football in the community. We do a lot with our players going out on various visits to schools and different things. So we do that. And I got the report not too long ago. It came through, and we're doing sort of a hell of a lot more player visits and a couple of members of the squad each week or every other week than we were. But again, that's the way you get the supporters from a young age. Is they get to meet the heroes, the players, and different things. And it's not just by sending a couple of the sort of scholars down every now and then. They want to see the star players. They want to meet Reece Oakes. They want to meet Ollie Clark or Keller Dunn. So we do try and do that. And we do push it.
Thank you.
There's 4 going to a school, is it Beechwood or somewhere, and World Book Day on Thursday. We've got 4 going to do some reading there at school, and we very much encourage the players to get out there and do that. There's a schedule goes up every month. Dave Wally sorts it out, and we make sure that they share it out amongst them. They all do the fair share of it.
Should we move the mic here? Thank you. Who's your question to?
Yeah, my question's to Nigel. I think the most improved player this season is Elliot Hewitt. I just wanted to know your opinion on who you think is your most improved player.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with Elliot. It's funny, when we signed him, I hadn't seen an awful lot of him. Simon had and Gary had, and they were all both adamant, we're going to sign him, and we got him tied up, and it was what we call an easy one to do, wasn't it? Because they'd been relegated. It was Knox, wasn't it? Yeah. Grimsby came from Grimsby, they'd been relegated, I think, and so it was an easy one to do. And when we signed him and whatever, I remember David's comment, he said, players like that often turn out to be your best signings. Because you sign them, you're not quite sure, is he going to play right back, centre half or whatever, but they're in the team somewhere. And they're absolutely invaluable in your squad, people like Elliot Hewitt, invaluable. He's got pace, he very rarely misses games. Having said that, he didn't train this morning, he was on the bed, injured, he managed to get 5 minutes on the bed because they're that busy. With his legs strapped up or whatever, so he's got a whack that he's been playing with for a few weeks. But people like him, he just turn up on a Saturday almost, you don't have to train, He's been very good indeed, and they're the best value signings, people like him, honestly.
Just on the back of that, Nigel, who do you think is your most, the best player this season for you?
Most consistent?
Yeah, most consistent.
I wouldn't disagree with Elliot Hewitt week in, week out. I'm very pleased with Christy Pym. I think he's been, we look at goalkeepers in terms of not really the saves that they're making the top corners, do they make errors, And I think Christy Pym's made very, very few errors where you'd say he should have had that this season.
He doesn't really command his box though, does he?
Yeah, if he doesn't cost us goals.
Not like Scotty.
Well, if he doesn't cost us goals, that's the main thing we look at. That's the main thing, and he hasn't cost us goals. Last year, Nathan Bishop, as good as he was, cost us a few times as a young goalkeeper. Christy hasn't done that, and the players have an awful lot of confidence in him.
I think I saw a hand round about here. Yeah, if we could work that back to the second to back row.
I've got a question for Nigel. When do you think Stephen Quinn's going to end football?
After Saturday, probably tomorrow. Might be his last season. Is he 35 now? I
think he's 36.
36 now, is he? It might well be his last season. We actually took him at Burton about 3 or 4 years ago, and he'd retired. He'd left Reading and he retired. And we got a call from Chris Morgan, a lad who, remember, from Sheffield United, who played with him and said, listen, he's been on holiday to Portugal, and I think this was the September time. He's officially retired at the end of this previous season, but can he come and do a little bit of training with you and see how he goes? Came in training with us at Burton, and within 2 weeks he'd signed for us. He wasn't ready to retire. And he's another one, just gets out there, brilliant professional, and a great influence in the dressing room and everything. But I think it's probably his last season. Probably. But don't hold me or him to that. He might change his mind. He doesn't carry a lot of weight. His knee's in as good a shape as it's been in for a few years, so it's just great to have him around and on the pitch. Well, sorry, I think the supporters appreciate seeing somebody who's played at the top level as well, being an international Premier League player, whatever, coming and playing in League Two. You get to see why he's played there, like James Perch, you get to see why they've played at that level.
There's a hand up behind you. Thank you.
This goes to both of you. Well, Cloughy. We had
Nigel. No, it's not. One's a little bit rude and one's more polite.
We had Lewis Page on a 1 month contract, and you said earlier, well, we had Bowery, who went left back, who got ripped to pieces at Salford. What was the plan with him? He's at training. What is your plans with him?
Well, he's not at training anymore.
Oh, that answers my question.
Okay, who's next? If you dare.
Sorry, Lewis training with us up until January. I believe he's training with another club at the moment. But he couldn't quite get fit. He was getting fit again in January, and then we couldn't commit to anything, so he's off with another club at the moment, I believe.
There's a gentleman waiting patiently with his hand just over there. The mic's coming to you now. Yeah. If you could stand up, sir, so we can see you, that'd be great.
I'll be respectful. Nigel,
thank you.
Not the other one. The last referee we had that had any connection as a professional was a lad called Tom Bramwell, who's now on the Premier League. I think he did this 4 years ago. Now, he took up refereeing after he'd been given the boot by Sheffield Wednesday Academy at 18. As there is a shortage, based upon you said there's a logjam, is this something that the club encourages those scholars that are not being taken on to take up, rather than just go through the motions of playing a few games here for clip post, somewhere there, and realising there is more to football and a career than just leaving the system and then just being sat at the end of the bar on a Saturday?
I think Richard Cooper in the academy in this year, for the first year, they've offered and done the referees some level of referees exams for the lads to give them a little taster. The only problem they have is when they do get released, is to do refereeing and play and keep playing is very difficult. So you have to do one or the other, really. So a lot of lads, whether it's at a lower level, want to keep playing football. And it's difficult to do both, but it's certainly, that should be the main catchment. If referees, if ex-pros are going to be referees, that should be the main catchment. If lads get disillusioned or whatever and they don't want to play for whatever reason and they're going to go into different areas of work, why not encourage them into referees when they get released at 18 or 19 years old?
And the second part is, you said that Andy Garner takes a team sheet in, speaks to referee, and then you're forever asking the fourth official for why has that decision been made. We see Andy Garner on the phone a lot. Is he ringing Samaritans saying, this man in the middle is ignoring me? So, who on earth is he ringing?
We have an analyst upstairs who films the games, so sometimes you get a different view, and Andy goes and stands at the back of the lower tier as well. Sometimes you get a different view of the game than when you're actually at pitch side. So sometimes we have contact from upstairs, just a general picture of things, which I think everybody does. You see them all now, all mic'd up and everything, and we're all talking to somebody higher up in the stand. Thank you.
Yeah, this young lad at the front, please.
It is actually a better view from up there in terms of seeing the overall picture of the game, but you can't get involved as much. Rugby do it, don't they? The rugby coaches and that, they'll watch it from on high. Okay.
This is for Nigel. If you had to choose from like Vanarama National League, who would you choose as your backup right back?
Right back in the National League. Ooh. I've seen a little bit of things, but I'm not as au fait with the players as I used to be. I've been to watch Notts County a few times and enjoyed watching them. They played a couple of different formations, so I'm not aware of any great right backs who are as good as what we've got. But the striker at Notts County, Langstaff, is certainly scoring some goals and attracting attention. And there's a few very good Wrexham players. Unfortunately, they're on about 3 or 4 times what our players are at. People should also realise that, how that's changed the landscape. There's some conference teams paying an awful lot of money, Wrexham being the main one, where they can take players from like League One. There's Sarcevic, the Bolton captain that took a year or so ago.
O'Connell went from Charlton to Wrexham.
Charlton. So Wrexham are actually taking players from League One, and they're getting a pay rise to play essentially non-league. We talked about the January transfer window as well, where Colchester and Gillingham changed the landscape, throwing an awful lot of money about.
Okay, yeah, just behind you. Question to you both. January were really, really good. What was the best deal we did in January? Personally, for you, what do you think? That's in and out.
I think I'm happy with them all. Honestly, I think they're all equally as valuable, from Callum Johnson and Lewis Reed to Alfie Kilgore to Davies Keller-Dunn. I think we needed those 4 players to come in. Lewis Reed more because of Anthony Hartingham's injury. We needed somebody to come in and play who knew that position. Been after a centre half since the summer. If Alfie Kilgore had been 100% fit and available, we would have probably taken him then. Davies Keller-Dunn, we were so close to getting him in the summer, and he just chose Burton in League One ahead of us, but we were right in there with the deal right until the last minute. I think all 4 of them have been extremely valuable.
Okay, there's a couple of hands up at the bottom. Sorry, David.
So outs were out of our control to a certain degree. Gillingham paid we think an awful lot of money for 2 lads who have got 5 months left on the contract, and it was very difficult to deny them as well the money that was on the table for them.
Yeah, when we sold Hawks and Lapsley, we do. There's always a plan, and everybody thinks, "What are you doing? You don't know what you're doing. You're getting rid of our best players." There's always a plan. We just don't tell you the plan. So you eventually, hopefully, see it, and we got the 4 players in, and everybody realised, oh, actually, we're strong enough because of it. So when we do things, we are doing it with a bit of tactical sort of analysis and planning it, and it's not just doing it just to upset everybody and to cause chaos. Those 2 players left. They only had 6 months left on the deal. They wanted to go because of what they'd been offered, both from down that way. And the players we brought in, Caledon especially, we've been chasing him for a long. I mean, for the last 3 windows, I think we've been trying to get him, and we finally did get him. And Reed came about. We didn't think he was available because he's such a good player. It just came about very randomly one morning. I was on the phone to the director of football at Swindon, and he said, "Do you want Lewis Reed?" And I knew straight away that Nigel and Gary would want him, but it was a quick conversation and it happened quickly. Alfie we'd watched for quite a while, even though he wasn't playing loads. We tracked him because you don't really get players that in January it's difficult. You're not going to get a player from League One that's playing every week. It's going to be somebody that's not in the team at the club they're at. So that came about that way. And Callum Johnson again, he was a bit homesick. He didn't want to be in Scotland, and that's how that one came about.
We talked about him in the summer, actually, and he decided he'd go and play in the SPL at Ross County. I just don't think he realised how far north it was.
Got a couple of hands up at the bar. Yes.
A couple of questions for you both. For Nigel to start with, a lot's been said about the refereeing, but we see week in, week out, the linesmen are never in line with play, and probably on Saturday Salford were offside half a dozen times and the linesman's just stood there, doesn't put his flag up at the end of play. What's your thoughts on it from the touchline?
There's a few. There was one which we thought was offside where the lad went clear at the end of the first half on the far side in front of Bishop Street stand. He was well onside. Well onside. So sometimes they're not always wrong. We think at the time, that's one of the things we're not berating the fourth official. We're asking him, can you just ask the assistant who kept him on or whatever, and they'll tell you, and then we get it upstairs within 20 seconds anyway, whether he was offside or not. But it's a similar thing with your standard. You just want the standard to go up a little bit. But they're not always wrong. They're not always wrong.
The guy next to you.
Oh, sorry, just one more.
Sorry.
David, sorry. A lot's been spoke about Bishop Street, and I think Stags fans have been beating that drum for the past however many years. What is being done around the club to renovate what we've currently got to make it a bit prettier on the eye, with whether it's painting the outside or fixing the dents where people can't shoot, or on the outside of the building, what's been made to make the building look a little bit smarter?
There's a bit going on. I mean, the paint, obviously it does need like a paint. You can see that from the outside. We've done a deal with a company that we're hoping to get the KBS, the Kevin Bird Suite, done in the summer, and hope that will then look. When we did a similar thing, Heineken did a deal with us at the DW at Wigan, and they did the lounge for us. They spent the money on it, and that's a sort of similar thing that we're going to put in place here. So again, this room, every part of the stadium, we're trying to keep on top of. We've just had it painted recently, but it's probably major change that you only see really. There are different projects ongoing. I think the KBS being probably the main one in the summer, and probably across the stadium. I don't know what you call them now, but the blue. I like the drain pipe type things that you see at the top of the stadium.
Guttering. Cladding, guttering. I don't know.
You see them yeah. Anyway, they need doing blue properly because it's all flaked away and it's faded. So there's a lot we can do and we are trying to do, and hopefully we'll notice that across the summer and when you come back for the first game in August.
Guy next to you.
Just a couple for Nigel, please. Christy Pym, is there an option for permanent transfer, or is it just a straight loan?
No, just straight loan at the moment. We've got to, sorry, not we, Davey's got to negotiate with Barry Fry over that one.
Yeah, I left the chairman to marry Friday in the summer. Yeah, that was interesting.
And then with mentioning Stephen Quinn potentially his last season, is there an option for him to go on to the coaching staff?
Stephen has got, I think, other things that he'll be doing. He's got business interest and stuff. I think he's got a building firm actually, which is quite successful. So I would think he'll be concentrating on that. I think he's far too impatient to be a coach.
Okay, Dean, yeah, I think it's Dean, yeah. And then we'll come to you, sir. Here's the mic.
Just a couple of questions. I know, David, you just touched on these suites that's probably going to be spruced up in the summer. I know we've spoken. Gates have obviously doubled like recently, which is fabulous. Downstairs, Sandy's has pretty much been outgrown now. It's packed on a match day. I know we've spoke about potentially doing some sort of canopy, putting some sort of roof outside Sandy's. I have got commitment from the SSA committee to donate £10,000 from the fans for that. I know we've sort of spoken privately about it, but like, are you going to get in touch when you've decided between you as a board, like the best way forward for that? Because I'm conscious that's something we get asked about a lot when it is raining and obviously people are getting wet.
Yeah, it's something, as you know, we've talked about it on the phone, and for everybody's knowledge in this room, it's something that we've been discussing for a while with the SSA, because Sandy's does get packed on a match day, and it's too busy, and there's no, if it's raining or if it's cold, you don't really want to stand outside. So we have looked at a canopy, and it's getting the understanding of what we want, because we could have something that's got sort of sides to it, that you could have a mini bar inside that's maybe got heaters in and do a proper job of it, or you could just have basically just a cover, which doesn't stop the rain coming in sideways if it's one of those days. But there's a cost element to both, isn't there? And it's what appeases the supporters and what allows to sort of, what is the best plan going forward from there. So it's one or the other. Steve Hymas has been dealing with getting planning for it, which we've got, but it's only just for the cover. It's not for if we have sides, because then you've got fire eggs and different things. But it's what the supporter, and this is something we don't need it. The weather's, apart from today, was awful, but I mean, we're probably getting into spring in the next few weeks, and then you've got the summer where we have no games. So it's probably something that's hopefully going to be put in place for October, when the weather starts, September, October. I mean, ideally we're going to have it for the start of the season, but the weather's always good till sort of late September, October anyway. But what we didn't want to do is just rush into something, put something up that is just a cover that might not suffice. We want it, and that's why we want to get your guys' opinions on it, and the other guys that might spend more time with it than us eating our roast dinner upstairs in the boardroom. So
yeah, okay, yeah, thanks for clarifying. Could I just ask as well, I know Nigel's mentioned about football in the community and players going out to schools, which obviously is brilliant, and we know that they do a great job, but we have been asked about the open day, because for years the club generally had like a summer open day, and obviously due to COVID and everything stopped, but we've not had one for a little while. Is it something that you're considering? Or I know some clubs are sort of half-term and having families and children in to sort of visit players. Is that something that potentially you're looking at?
yeah, I mean, if not, we could. They used to do a training session on the pitch and things like that, and then sign autographs after.
It was on the top pitch, as they call it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, it have to. I mean, the quality of that pitch isn't like it used to be. Because we don't use it for training. The ladies use it for certain games, but I think it would have to be something we'd probably do on the main pitch, but then Mez would need to be happy that he's happy with the pitch. Obviously, then we've got probably a home friendly, maybe two, but definitely one. So it's probably just selecting the date. But I see no reason why we can't do it, and certainly we've got a bit of stock that we want to try and shift in the club shop as well. That isn't shifting, that's just sat there, so certainly it's something that I think there's no reason why we can't do it. I think if you guys and myself, Alex, Lynn, etc. sit down and plan it for some time or something.
Yeah, that's great. A few fans have asked us about the end of season awards. I know a lot of fans in the past used to enjoy sort of mixing with the players, sort of at the end of the season. I know obviously COVID put paid to that, but last year the club held their award ceremony behind closed doors at the RH. So have you got similar plans for this end of season, or is it too early to say?
Yeah, the playoffs. So I was very much led by, I mean, the chairman. I think the last time we had, everybody remembers the time when the club got beat at MK Dons, and they were poor in the playoffs. I think it was at Newport, and I think they had an end of season dinner, and it just didn't. It was a strange atmosphere because the club had just missed out on automatics. Players might have been drinking different things, and they had a game a few days later. So we were very much mindful of that and keeping professional and getting the business done on the pitch in the playoff semi-finals, which we did, and then we were hoping to obviously then have one big celebration on the day. But I think there's an appetite to do an end of season awards, but we don't want it to be a distraction. We don't want players. They're very professional these days, and this group especially. They're not the sort of drinking type, but you wouldn't want any temptations for them to go out and have a few, and we've got a game a few days later.
Yeah. Last question. A few fans have asked us about pre-season friendlies, and I'm guessing that both of you, Nigel and David, are involved in the planning of that. Last season we went away to Oldham, for example. Some fans have said to us, and obviously it's your guys' call, but we've not played, Mansfield fans have not had a chance to go to clubs with new grounds in non-league like York, for example, or Boston.
Have you been listening today? Because we've just planned to go to York today.
Have you?
Yeah. So have you booked our office?
Steve might have done. But no, it's generally, because I know we played Oldham last year, obviously, and then gone in the summer, but obviously running the coaches, some fans have said, we'd really love to go there, so we just
started penciling it in today and working on the plan in York. We got Retford, and York was the second one on the list. So,
okay, great.
And we may well go to Scotland, and we enjoyed it up there. It was a very good training facility, so but we try and get them. The difficult thing is arranging games with clubs that you don't know what league you're going to be in. So if we can't arrange a League Two with League Two clubs. Teams at the top of the conference might be coming up, so we can't arrange them. The police have a say as well. Can't have League One clubs because hopefully we might be in there as well. You don't want to get them, so it's very, very difficult at the moment to get the teams. But York is certainly one that are on the list. And Oldham just came back, so they were the pitch would be good, and there'd be good opposition. So that was why we went up there, and it was about the closest. We actually looked geographically, and that was about the closest we could get. We looked at Altrincham this year, but York is certainly on the list. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm conscious that time is passing, so let's have a few more. Anybody? I'll come to you, sir, but let's ensure everybody else has asked a question if they want to. Any on this side? Yeah, at the back. Let's take 2 or 3 more. Okay, closer here. Yeah, go on then.
Sorry, I do have a question going back to transfers and the plan that you mentioned, David. So I'm not sure if my memory sort of deceives me, but when you first joined, David, you said you was going to try and bring in younger players and then try and sell them on for profit. Since then, we've signed a few of the older guys, who have been brilliant for us, by the way. And then in January, you kind of just said, well, we're looking to reduce the age of the squad a little bit. So is there a clear transfer strategy now going forward? Or is it, if a player becomes available, if he's going to do the job like Stephen Quinn has, then we'll always take him? Just wanted to ask about that, if that's all right.
Yeah, are they good players? That's it. Are they good enough to better than what we've got, different than what we've got? That's it. The age, there is a sort of slight appetite to bring the age down. We have got a lot of older players. That'll happen naturally, with maybe a couple retiring in the summer and everything. But if they're good enough, that's the main thing we look at. The loans, obviously we take younger loans like the 2 lads from Forest, and that balances things out. But I think we've got a better balance now since January with age within the squad.
Yeah, on that, there's always an appetite to sign good young players, but they cost a lot of money normally. So we have to be realistic with a lot of our players in the summer are frees, out of contract players. You don't, if you find a 21-year-old that's been released and not offered a new deal, you've got to question, are they good enough? So you have to be happy to part with cash. We did with every player. Apart from, I mean, Alfie we paid a fee for, Louis Rue we paid a fee for, Caledon we paid a fee for, and Callum Johnson we paid a small fee for. But we were still within what we sold Hawkins and Lapsley for. So when you're getting 24-year-olds, 23-year-olds, you have to pay fees. You don't really get them on free. So that's sort of alters the strategy at times, because you might really fancy a player, and there's a lot of players that we do like, but you get quoted sometimes 250 grand or $500,000, and are the owners going to sanction that? We have to be realistic about it. And also you've got Championship clubs now that they're signing players from League Two. The two that were at Forest Green last season went straight to the Championship, so it's tough to get them.
Okay, I think the mic's down here, and then we'll take one more from you, Steve. Does somebody else have their hand up? No? Okay, we'll take two more. One here and one there. Here comes the mic. Who's your question to, sir?
My question is to Nigel. I've been watching Mansfield many years. I'm very pleased to see you here. I get the Football League paper every week, and I go through all the teams and all the players, all the ratings. I'd just like to ask you what happened to two players, Corey O'Keefe and Carpe Argiani. What happened to Corey O'Keefe? Why is he not here?
We thought we had better options in that position. We didn't think he was good enough defensively for what we were looking for.
Okay, fine, but he gets in the team of the week most weeks for Forest Green, although they're struggling now, but I accept that's your opinion. Carpe Argiani, he gets in the team of the week nearly every week. I'm sure you could have signed him from Oldham.
Yes, we did try at several junctions, and then we felt as though he was the wrong sort of age of what we were looking for in the summer. But we did like Carl a lot. We think he's a good, genuine centre half. He's doing very well. Yeah, he's doing very well at Stevenage.
He is.
And we did make inquiries in a couple of windows.
Yeah, he's what we tried for.
Yeah, and we did try to sign him.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but I mean, obviously, your scouting network and yourself, you got a list as long as your arm of players that...
We haven't actually got that. We don't go that. You know, we try and narrow it down as much as we can, because there's certain players, sorts of players that we're after. And
yeah.
Carl was one of those.
Yeah, fine, that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last question of the night. All the way around 180 to Steve. Hope it's a good one. Here it comes, Steve. Who's your question to?
It's to Nigel. You've said that pre-season you might be going to Scotland again.
Yes.
Can we come?
What, with us?
Yeah. No, I mean, can we come as fans? Are you going to have a game?
Yes,
so
we're going to try. Yeah, the problem we had last year was the only time we could get the training facility at St Andrews University was the first week of pre-season, and we were late anyway with the playoff final or whatever, so it was too early to play any games. This year we're just waiting on confirmation. We're trying to go up a week or so later, which will mean probably at least one game up there on the Tuesday evening.
Fantastic.
So we'll go on the Monday, and then we'll stay 3 or 4 days like we do. We might play a game on the way back on the Friday night, which is where York may come into it, depending on if we've got one here on the Saturday.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for all your questions. For now, we've got one last one then. Come on, let's squeeze it in. Here comes the mic. Let's make this the final one then, before we move on to the last
This
two
format is obviously very popular, and I'd just like to thank on behalf of the fans to our guests, Nigel and to David, and for you for facilitating it, Stephen. But my point is, I've heard a lot about referees tonight. Now, as an ex-referee, I did over 20 years, I got to the Fringe of Football League when I was younger, a lot younger. And it's an incredibly difficult job. And I'm just wondering if there's any mileage in trying to work with Dean and the football club to try and get... I mean, I was at a forum not many weeks ago with Keith Hackett, who is obviously the supremo of the lot. And if we could have a similar forum, if he would agree, where we could get referees or referees officials and their management teams to a forum like this, including yourself, Nigel, so that we can have a better understanding from the referee's perspective of the kind of job they have to do. Not easy.
No, it certainly isn't. Nobody's ever said it was easy, and it is incredibly difficult. I'll tell you one thing, when we played at, a little comment from a referee, when we played at Grimsby in the Papa John's earlier this season, and I went on the pitch and it was the referee who's come down from Scotland, I think it's Robert Madden or something like that from the SPL. And I went up and we shake hands with the referees after every game now this season. And I just asked him quickly, book John Joe Toole for a foul on the halfway line. And again, I asked the fourth official and he said, oh, it was a promising attack on the halfway line. They committed the same tackle 5-10 yards outside their penalty area and he didn't book it. And I went on and said, and just said to the fourth, and I said, is that not more promising attack being 10 yards outside the penalty? So went on after he shut the referee. I said, I was a bit surprised that you booked our lad, but you didn't book their lad outside the penalty area. You know what he said? He said, yeah, well, he said, if you come and have a look at the video, I'll educate you. Referees don't help themselves sometimes. Got nothing to do with decisions, but when you get comments like that from referees, you come and have a look at the video and I'll educate you.
Did you look at the video?
No, they not with him, no. They lose sympathy, and these are the people that you can't visit for 30 minutes after the game. These are the people who won't look at videos after the game, being told by their Supremo, do not look at iPads, do not look at any incident. You can go in and talk to them 30 minutes after the game, but you cannot get them to look at any incident and say, please, can you explain that? Maybe we should start with that with referees.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for your questions. Ladies and gentlemen, for now, your appreciation to Nigel. This is your chance to win some great prizes. So what will happen is this: one lucky supporter will come up and face the manager in a 60-second quiz shootout. The gaffer will answer as many potluck questions as he can in 60 seconds, and one of you will do likewise with a chance to win 2 great prizes. We've got some match tickets, 2 match tickets at the value of about £50 for any home league game of this season. And we've also got in there an away shirt, and you can exchange that for any size, subject to availability, of course. Okay, so if the gaffer gets more than the supporter, they're back in the club shop and ticket office. If you win, you can gladly take home one of those prizes. So who's going to face the manager in a 60-second quiz shootout? I'll warn you, he's good. We need one of you out of 200.
Not at the moment.
Who's going to come up? Can I see a hand? Who's going to come up? Yeah, come on up. Give him a big hand. That's it. Take some bottle coming up here. Come on up, sir. Thank you. What's your name? Where do you come from?
Shane from Sutton.
Hello, Shane. And how long have you been supporting the Stags?
About 37 years.
Oh, stalwart. Right, just take a seat there if you would, because the manager's going to go first. And he is very... What did you get last time? You got about 11, didn't you?
No, not that many.
Okay, let's get 60 seconds on the clock and see how you do. And I wish you the best of luck. Here we go. What colour is the door of 10 Downing Street? Black. Correct. The character Scrooge appears in which Dickens novel?
Oliver Twist.
Christmas Carol. Which company makes Milk Train roses?
Cadbury's.
No help, please. Correct. In an alphabetical list of months, what follows March?
May.
Correct. What starchy crop was the first vegetable grown in space?
Wheat.
Potato. Which Democrat did Donald Trump beat to become US President?
Joe Biden.
Hillary Clinton. A bum bag is known in the US by what name?
Pass.
Fanny pack. By land area, what is the smallest country in Great Britain?
Wales.
Correct. Who did Will Smith slap at the Oscars?
Chris Rock.
Correct. What is the second largest country in South America?
Argentina.
Correct. What is the 4th vowel in the English alphabet?
Oh.
Correct. Who is second in line to the British throne?
Prince William.
George. The Central Criminal Court in London is better known by what name? Quick.
Old Bailey.
Correct. You just got it in time. What did you get? 8. Oh, 8's pretty good. Give him a big hand. Just for 60 seconds, would you just swap places with Shane? Then you've got to beat 8. Okay. Come on in, Shane. Make yourself comfortable. What are you going to go for if you win? You're going to go for the tickets or the shirt? The tickets or the shirt? Probably the shirt. Okay, excellent. Let's get another 60 seconds on the clock for Shane. You've got to be 8, Shane. Wish you the best of luck. Here we go. Which of Snow White's 7 dwarfs would come first alphabetically? Come on.
Grumpy.
Bashful. What is the unit of currency in India?
Rupee.
Correct. The military term ammo is short for what?
Ammunition.
Correct. Pomme is the French word for which fruit?
Apple.
Correct. What is the name of the highest award a chef can receive?
Michelin star.
Correct. Which continent contains the largest rainforest in the world?
South America.
Correct. What does the MI stand for in MI6?
Military intelligence.
Correct. In the UK, who was the last Labour Prime Minister?
Gordon Brown.
Correct. What is the capital city of Argentina?
Buenos Aires.
Correct. What meat is used in the shepherd's pie?
Lamb.
Correct. Which hymn is traditionally sung before the FA Cup final?
Abide with me.
Correct. Who is the only player with 100 Premier League goals for 2 clubs? Quick.
Pass.
Alan Shearer. An OTC drug can be bought over the what? You're out of time. It was counter, but you did it anyway. Did it almost with a counter. Excellent. One of the best we've had. Let's get you that, Shearer. That was absolutely sensational. You won at a canter. Well done indeed. Give him another big hand. Thanks for coming up. Okay, last part of the night, ladies and gentlemen. Earlier, Stuart kindly went round to ask supporters if they wanted to take part with a chance to win some prizes. We'll find out what very shortly. But David is going to pick a name out of the glass. And who's the name?
J2.
Here's J2. Come on up, J2. Oh, here he comes. Hello, Jay. How you doing? Good to see you. This is the manager, Nigel Clough, and that's David Sharpe. If you'd like to shake their hands. Okay, Jay. So what will happen is, if you come here, David's going to ask you a question, and if you get it right, we're going to show you what prizes you could possibly win tonight, and there's some crackers. Right, here we go. David, what's your question?
The 4 players that we signed in January, can you name the 4 clubs they came from?
Oh, that's a good one, that is. Take your time. It's worth it if you can get it. Take a moment to think about it. Thank you.
Well, Callum Johnson's Ross County.
That's one.
Alfred Kilgore's Bristol Rovers.
That's 2. 2 more and you get the chance to spin the wheel for a prize.
Lewis Reed Swindon. Keelan Dunn Burton.
Did he get That's absolutely fantastic. You've got the chance of now winning 4 prizes. So what you're going to do now is, well, 1 of 4. And what you're going to do is spin the wheel. So bring on the wheel. Big hand, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Look at this. You're in a proper show tonight. Right, here we go. If you just get there on the stage, and you've got 1 spin, give it a good one. Just go to that side in front of that lady there. So we'll just tell the audience what you've got. You've got a booby prize, you don't want that. You've got a signed ball by all the players, you've got a Sandy's voucher, or he's got a mystery star prize! Right, give it a good pull. Right, don't break it. Okay, here we go. He's got the mystery star prize! Fantastic. Right, come back up, Jake, come back up. Just open that envelope and read it out to the audience. No, it's not in the budget. Okay, here we go. Get that if you can. And, okay, read that out to the audience if you would, Jay.
I have won. You and 2 guests have won the opportunity to watch first team training session at RH Academy.
Okay, should we do 1 more before we go? Yeah, why not? Okay, don't sound too enthusiastic. Okay, who's coming up next? Got 3 more prizes left. Who is it, David?
Harvey Morton.
Where are you, Harvey?
Yeah.
Harvey, come on up. Show him some encouragement. Come on up, Harvey. Okay, got another question. Harvey's just making his way up now. Yeah, brilliant. If you just come onto the side of the stage if you can. That's great. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, David, what's your question to Harvey?
Who is our top goal scorer this season?
Top goal scorer this season. Just speaking to the mic, Harvey. Shares his surname with an animal.
Oh, it's Swan.
Is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
Yes, he's won! Well, he's got a chance to spin the wheel. Go on, Harvey. Give it a good one. Is he on sign ball? Yeah, take the sign ball with you. Well done, Harvey. Stay well. Thank you for coming, ladies and gentlemen. Let's leave our guests, David Sharpe and Nigel Clough, with the final word. David.
Thank you all for coming tonight. I hope you heard what you wanted to hear. I hope you've learned a few things from us. And thank you again for supporting the club. Hopefully we have 14 games we can remember. And come May the 7th, or whether that's playoffs or whatever happens, hopefully it'll be a memorable season. And if it's not, just like you always have done, stick together. And then let's see what that entails following that. But again, thank you for coming tonight. And hopefully I've answered as many. I mean, it should have been a night with me for the first hour. Hopefully I've sort of, there's a few things that are always quite tricky to answer, and I have to be honest and upfront as much as I can, but there's certain things I'm not allowed to discuss until it's publicly out there. But I get your frustrations, and hopefully just like when we had one of these a year ago or so, I said a few things would happen, and they have happened, and I don't want to make false promises, and again, hopefully things fall in place. But yeah, thank you for coming, and safe journey to those that are going to Wimbledon on Saturday.
Thank you, David. And the final word of the night from the gaffer.
Thank you very much for your support, home and away this season. We'll give you everything in the last 14 games to try and achieve what we want to. And we'll continue to try and be open and honest with you, both from our side and David's side, about how we're progressing and what we're doing as a club. Because you are such an integral, vital part of the club. That's the way it should work. And thank you for Jim Bowen for presenting tonight.
Before you mention the speedboat, he's like Jim Bowen.
just while we're on, Stephen, a lot of work goes into putting this together from you and your team, and all the staff around the club. There's a lot of people involved with it, not just in tonight, but the running the club and what goes on behind the scenes. They don't get enough credit, and people like Diane, Lynn, Jess, people like that. It would take me forever to name names, but you all know who you are. I'm thankful for your help, and obviously Steve and the guys for setting up tonight. And this is his night. I thought you were meant to be ill, weren't you? And you've raised your.
It was the cold, but you got over that.
You were never going to miss it. You know. But well done, and it's been a good night.
Thank you. My thanks to. My thanks to everybody behind the scenes, and thank you for coming out from Nigel, me, and everyone here. Good night, God bless. Thank you.